in Chicago, my day job, they had like an espresso machine and I would do it all the time. And it was like really relaxing. So now I get to do it at home.
My birthday is in a couple of weeks, and I don't know what I'll get. Maybe I'll get a sense of awareness. Well, thank you for sitting down with me. I appreciate it so much. I was just listening to the podcast, and
Okay.
sounds good. I mean, first of all, that's all you got. Like that's it. If you have a good sounding podcast, congratulations. But it's a very lovely, very good premise, and I love a good podcast with a premise. How did you and Caleb find out about these golden records?
It was Caleb's friend Chandler had brought them up. Caleb and I were like for a while, like maybe we would do a podcast, but we were like, we would only do one if we had an idea. Like we didn't want to do a podcast where it was just like us talking.
Hmm.
Those are great, they exist, but we were like, we'll get bored by that pretty fast in terms of like sitting down to do it every week.
Right.
So we were coming up with a bunch of ideas and nothing that we were like loving, but we were kind of moving towards doing one idea. And then Caleb's friend from college, Chandler, told him about the golden records and we were like fascinated by it. And then we were like, we should do that. That's crazy. They're so interesting and there's so much there to do. So we um looked into them a little bit more. Caleb bought like there's a book about them and we bought that and then we really decided to do it in that direction.
Yeah, are these records? They're not actually records. They're not like vinyl or anything. It's
No, I actually laugh about this a lot because I get that the people who made it are ultimately scientists and they know more than me, but it doesn't make sense to me. There's two golden, they're like they are round, but they're not like vinyl. And then there's a diagram on one of them that's supposed to show you how to play it. But I look at that diagram and it tells me nothing. It looks just like crazy symbols. And then you're expecting other life from other like galaxies to see that diagram and be like, okay, yeah, no, we know how to figure this out. Like, what? It's like getting something from IKEA, but way harder. Um, so they're not like vinyl, but they are records and they can be played on the Challenger. Like there is a player on it, or the Voyager, not the Challenger. Voyager.
let's say the Challenger, but that one must be long gone by now.
Yeah, no, the Voyager. Yeah, sorry.
It, it's that's I don't know. It's kind of that sounds stupid on their part. I know it's 1977, but at least invent the MP2 or something. Just they'll make it like
I
a digital format instead of
I
proprietary.
read something that they were like, we didn't use we used numbers to show them how to do it because those are universal. And I'm like, they're not universal. They're worldly. Like they are of this world. Like they are, yes, numbers work globally, but they don't work universally. Like we're using that wrong. No, like the idea that they would see like a three and be like, ah, speaking our language is like so insane. Like, I guess that's the closest they could get to being like, we can speak, but it doesn't make, they know more than me, but it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I just yeah, it's so stupid. And then I mean, I enjoy I thoroughly like the foresight and the scientist's mind to do that, but God, it's just 1977 is too early. And even now, I guess like if somebody 41 years from now was like say Biden sent up another one, and
Yeah.
41 years from now somebody be going, why do they send up MP4s? Why don't they send
Right.
up gigabots or whatever? So
Yeah. We talked to this guy, John Lomberg, who worked on the original records with Sagan, and he said that they almost did another one, but then like chose not to. They thought it would be like too much of a lift. And he was like, we would have loved to do it. But the idea is that they won't be found till long after humans are gone.
oh boy.
I know. Whenever they tell us that, we're like, yeah, definitely. And that's awesome.
At least go to a. I think if you're going to do it again, if they could do it again, send up a good year, not 1977. I would probably go to. Let's see. Uh, Post 9/11, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, Um, yeah, I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago, they almost sent another one up. I feel like they will again, but I don't know. I mean, it's NASA, so it's like, what are they doing? I don't know.
Now, is this your first? God, I guess I'll just say it. Is this your first podcast?
Yes,
Okay.
for both of us.
Oh.
We'd been on other people's podcasts, but we'd never produced or like been, hosting.
What did you do you two ever find it difficult to? Were you nervous to start like a weekly thing so you can talk to somebody, and continue to make up segments and make sure that if this person's not interesting, then we are able to be competent hosts and fall back on ourselves.
I was definitely a really nervous interviewer in our first episode and a couple after that, even though it was like our first episode was with one of our closest friends, Holmes, who's an incredible comedian. And they're like very close with us from Chicago. They just moved here to LA. And I was like, I didn't know how much I could talk about myself or if I was like explicitly there to interview someone else. Like that really stressed me out. And then we only had like 2 or 3 segments thought out, but you only do 1 or 2 an episode. So it was like that stuff sort of rumbled around. It didn't like struggle to do it weekly until like sort of recently because we're not the world's opening back up and we're like doing more things and we're like, God, we got to record, and it's like Wednesday afternoon, we release on Fridays, and we're like, we gotta get hot too, gotta move it. So that part's getting a little bit more stressful just with like the world being a little bit more in motion than when we started, which was when we were like in the house all the time. It was something to do.
Well, now that you are able to do it from home, and it sounds just as good by with you guys having microphones at home, I think that could alleviate some type of pain. Should it be later in the week and both of you are working, and it's a Thursday afternoon, you go, all right, let's get this recorded, or it's a Friday morning, you go, all right, this is the time we have, and we're able to get this out by Friday at 5 p.m. and it'll be fine.
Yeah, and we have like, in my opinion, the best podcast producer that exists in Mike, and he is the pod because he does the best. He makes it sound good. We don't make it sound good at all, but he does his thing. He's the best.
What's
let us talk about him on the pod.
Uh,
he cuts it whenever we do.
Really?
So whenever we do other things, we make sure to talk about him because we're trying to give him his due.
Hype him up. Do it.
Yeah. Mike Comite, the best audio engineer in the game, in my opinion.
The end? I think
he can do so much with so little. We when we started and we pitched it, and he did our pilot with us before we had like signed anything. Mm-hmm. And we were like, yeah, we have these ideas, and it was truly like speaking in tongues. Like our ideas were so in our head, and we didn't really know how to voice them. And then he made them like somehow both exactly what we wanted and so much better. It was like so confusing how we did that. He's the best. He should be making $1 trillion, and I'll make sure that one day he does.
What's it like working with Headgum? I think Headgum is, if you think about in terms of comedy podcasting, you think Earwolf, but admittedly they've gone wayward, especially after being sold to Sirius and before that to the Scripps Company, EW Scripps Company, a company which I worked for. And I'm not working right now, so that tells you where they're at. So Headgum, how are Jake and Amir as bosses? I'm sure there's more, but I only know those two figureheads. How's working with that company and all these other great podcasts within that are under the same branch?
Yeah, it's good. We've become pretty close with Jeff, who he hosts a review with Riley, and he also does the Headgum podcast. Mm-hmm. he sort of introduced us to Jake and Amir when we
Okay.
were pitching the podcast. So he's been like incredible. And then Jake and Amir are great. We did their podcast, they've done ours. Like we've, met them in that way. We haven't been in studio yet. So there's not been like that vibe yet, but they just signed a lease. We're like, they have a basketball hoop and we're going to play basketball there this week. So
Oh, okay.
we're going to start to get to know them a little bit better. But for a while, it's just been like email or like Instagram and being like, what's up? But it's been fun. We like them a lot. We hope to work with them for a long time.
That's good. I'm glad. I'm glad that that you are enjoying them. Well, back with your podcast, the what kind? So your records, I assume, are opened up into more than just whatever was in the 1977. Just music and all that type of stuff. What kind of records have you when you started the podcast? What kind of record were you just thinking about? And then now that you're a good 6 months in, wait, when did you start? In like December? That was the
Yeah.
trailer for the show, right? So now that you're a couple of months in, what kind of has that changed? Is there anything else that you would add to it or take away?
Yeah, it's funny because originally we were like, okay, the ideas that we gave as like examples when we were having guests on were pretty static. It was like a movie, a TV show, and like an experience.
Yeah.
And then I think it was Sydney Washington sent up a Swiffer, and we were like, I guess, like, why not? And people have had such like unique ideas. We also do a segment called Delete It, where it's something that we delete from the records.
Hmm.
And I think of new things for that. Like every day, there's like a little thing that annoys me that is so small. Because I think when we started, it was like the big things, like the big things that annoy us. And now it's like we've been doing it for long enough that the things that we're deleting are like little things that are just like sort of grating. Like, um, this one's kind of gross, but I thought about it yesterday. And it is only if you have like really long hair, but if you swallow food and you have your own hair in it and you have to pull it out and you like
Yeah.
are truly like pulling hair out of your throat, I want that off the record. I don't want it. I don't want it anywhere. I want it completely gone. Like I don't want to ever hear about that experience. I don't want to see it. I don't want to feel it. Like I want it gone. And I don't want the lasting record of humanity to have any reference to that there. Um, but in that, there are some things that I think are so annoying that I want them on the record. I want them to know that it existed. Um, and then, yeah, we get like, there still is like a lot of music and things like that that people will include. But I think our favorites are when it's like a feeling or like someone recently put on like realizing you have a crush on someone. And it's like, yeah, that's more of like a feeling. It's a concept. And it's like,
Yeah.
that gets more to the root of like what humanity is than Holes, the movie, which will be on my records.
Oh, okay. Well, good to know. You said when you said holes, I was like, is she talking about the movie?
Yeah,
And then I thought the book maybe.
big time the movie, and the book, but the movie. I love the movie Holes, and it's on the records for me.
I just last week I was rapping. Who's his name? Armpits rap in the song, the Holes
Yeah,
theme song. It's ingrained in my head, and I don't want it there, but it's
yeah.
it's there forever.
ARMPI to the T.
That's right. That's right.
I love that movie. It's one of the best that's been ever made.
Yeah, really think so?
Yeah, I do. I could make the argument, but I've been told I can go too hard on it. So
No, well that's fair. People say that about like Space Jam. I just watched the new Space Jam Legacy trailer, and
okay.
I have no hopes for that.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of nostalgia. I'd rather just watch something like I don't want something slapping me in the face with hey remember this, hey remember this. I want something like Holes. I want something that's story driven. Just
Yeah. Shouldn't ever remake Holes. I hope they never do. It was perfectly done the first time with a problematic cast and they can't remake it.
I don't know. They, the lead guy. I don't know what happened to him, but he
Shia
made
LaBeouf.
Honey Boy. He made a bunch
Yeah,
of
Shia LaBeouf
other.
has, but then he got a little. He's been in a bit of trouble, and so he's sort of canceled. And correct. So, and then there's
Wait,
John
who's been
Voight,
canceled?
who's like, well,
Who's been sort of canceled? You went out there.
Shia LaBeouf.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course, yes, yes, of course, yes.
And then there's John Voight in that, and he's not really a great guy. But then you got like Sigourney Weaver. I don't think she's done anything wrong. Dule Hill, he's a great guy.
Mhm.
Eartha Kitt, I think she's dead.
Who played? Well, now they can't remake the Emperor's New Groove. Who played the woman? Was Sigourney Weaver the woman with the nails and the
Yes.
snake thing? Oh my, the snake venom. And I think it might have also been because she was in Friends and as like this sexy older woman. I had such a huge crush on her.
Well, her character was ultimately hot.
Yeah.
Like she was really scary, but she was hot.
Hmm.
She was the only woman I think in the whole, besides Stanley L. Metz's mom and Eartha Kitt. I think she's the only woman in the movie.
She's just three women. I
I
mean,
think so because it's all at this boys' camp.
yeah.
I think that's it.
I also remember the slow
Oh, Kissing
motion.
Kate Barlow,
Oh, four.
Patricia Arquette.
I also remember the slow motion of the two shoes that were tied together being thrown. I distinctly remember that, and I truly don't know why.
Yeah, Sweet Feet's shoes. And then I've always thought that's a huge plot hole in the movie. And I think in the book too, because Zero throws the shoes
Okay.
and Stanley catches them and immediately gets arrested. This is either a plot hole or like an absolute drag on our judicial system. Either way, I mean, it doesn't make sense unless they explain it this way. But so Stanley gets arrested right away. Zero
Hmm.
gets away because he threw the shoes.
Right.
When Stanley gets to camp, Zero's already there. That doesn't make sense.
I think Zero did an equal offense. He like there was another like he got rid of those shoes. He was able to get away, and then he went and did something else bad.
That same day, because he was not that the timing doesn't make sense for me. That's where I take issue.
Well, Aladdin, he stole bread to feed himself in Abu, and so it's. I mean, maybe Aladdin, went out and stole again just to feed himself.
Okay, I'll take it.
That's the only reasoning I would think, because Stanley like pretty much goes to in front of the judge the next day or something, and then is sent to
Yeah,
that camp.
yeah, and Zero's already there, but Zero sent it so it doesn't. Unless Zero got arrested just but 5 minutes
5
later,
minutes later.
it doesn't make much sense. But I'm here for it because it's a perfect movie otherwise.
Yeah. So you'd send holes up, and with a great 20-page paper on what essay on why it's so good.
Yeah, well, because I mean, there's so many stories being told in Holes. There's like four different storylines. There's the Kiss and Kate Barlow. There's the Zero and Stanley, and like the boys' camp generally. Then there's the like Eartha Kitt curse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then there's the trying to get the shoes not to smell thing for Henry Winkler, his storyline.
That's like a D story.
But Kiss and Kate Barlow, that story is like could be. If I were to ever remake Holes, I would make the Kiss and Kate Barlow story. That is a good storyline.
It is, yeah. I can
It's
fix
like
that. I call it. I can fix that.
I can fit like her falling in love with him. The like, I mean, terrible. I mean, they really for a Disney movie. It was produced by Disney.
Hmm.
They like really got into it
Yeah.
towards the end there when Dule Hill's character dies. That should be its own movie.
Yeah.
It's
I don't disagree.
hard Holes.
I don't disagree. What? So with you all only being so far into the show, have there been any changes that you would like to implement? You or Caleb would like to implement anything that you would see the show expanding into? Because I know early on a lot of podcasts will see themselves as one thing and then eventually morph into something just a little bit more easier to do or something that is a little bit more comparable to what they're doing at the point.
Yeah, I don't know how much we're looking to change it entirely. I think there are like some special episodes we'd want to do now that it's sort of the expectation is set. Like if you do something unique too early, people expect it all the time. Now I think we've been doing it long enough that like I had the idea of having like a some sort of famous chef on and having them, instead of doing their own records, do a meal for the aliens. Like if you had to plan out a meal, what would that be? Or like um one time Caleb and I want our moms to do an episode. Um, and so things like that, maybe like live shows. Eventually we want to do some live ones, where like some of the listeners can come on and tell us what they want to put on. That's been a big thing. And we like interacting with people online. Like we do like a lot of question things, or like we have the quiz for this or that where we like put that on the stories, and that's always really fun to see what people pick and things like that. We've gotten really engaged with that line, so finding new ways to like do that is a priority. But in terms of like the setup of the actual podcast, I think it'll be pretty much the same with maybe some more unique episodes thrown in.
Do you now the emphasis is on getting an extra, squeezing an extra dollar out of the user, the listener? That sounds negative, but if when you have a dedicated fan base, people are willing to pay extra. Is there any thought of starting some type of Patreon or some type of I just got an email for the podcast Apple podcast subscription service. Was there any
Right.
thought about doing any of that stuff, extra episodes?
We've talked about doing like a Patreon, or like we've gotten DMs and stuff about merch, and we've thought about doing that. We probably will down the line, just when it makes sense.
Hmm.
I think like the worst thing we could do is like release merch and no one buys it,
Yeah.
It's like awesome. Well, and then also like we need approvals from other people. It's
Hmm.
weird because we want to just be able to like do things. Like Caleb once made shirts for himself just as a joke and sold them on Twitter. It was like that's really fun, but now we have to like talk to Headgum and like make sure it's cool and like do all of that. Um, so that's part of it. Ultimately, I think probably will do one or the other, both. Definitely because we also like we really would love to have more interactions with the listeners that are like really dedicated, and if there's a way to do that, through a Patreon, where then we can like have them leave us voicemails that we like listen to on the or like things like
Right.
that would be really fun for us. Like I think we would have a blast.
Yeah, yeah. That sounds like your show is ripe for. I'm sorry, you might be hearing somebody come by with a giant cart. All right. Okay. Anyway, but yeah, your show sounds like it's ripe for being able to have that listener interaction. I could already imagine. You can take this idea if you want, but I can already imagine before an episode starts, you just have like a fake, a voicemail thing, and then you have three listeners say, "Hey, keeping records. Yeah, I just gotta, I like to put on the all of U2's '90s albums," and then
Right.
someone's like, "I want to put on a picture of my son as a baby," and or something stupid, just
Right.
I guess I can already see that happening because that's great. Now I've never asked this to anybody before who has a podcast. What is it like doing an ad read? With the expectation of I have to fit in all of this information. Both you and Caleb do it with, I would say, you make it interesting. You make it interesting enough for people to not skip ahead. So what is that like?
Sometimes it definitely depends on who we're advertising for, how strict their parameters are. Like some of them are like, say whatever you want. We usually try whatever we're advocating for. If like ever we haven't, it's been like it's coming, but we haven't yet. So like there is genuinely like some sort of personal experience with whatever we're trying. But yeah, we just like to have fun with it. Sometimes we'll talk about like an angle, but generally we'll just like log on. We're usually late with ads. Like they're due on Fridays, on Thursday nights, so that it can release on Friday. And we're usually like Thursday morning being like, we got to do ads. So we're like, we just sit in our, because we live together. So we just like sit in the house and like do it for fun. And we do maybe 2 takes if we need to, but we like doing them. Some of them have full scripts.
Mm,
Those are the easy ones. You don't
yeah.
have to do anything, you just read. But then we like to have fun with them, especially if we really have liked the product. It's like really fun to talk about it in that way.
How do a lot of them give you the product, or like with that prior experience? Like, are you ever getting like not free stuff, but they ever just say, "Hey, try this out"?
Yeah. So like yeah, I don't think I cannot. So like we've had Magic Spoon. We have it in the house and we like really like it. And we have
Mhm.
like if people come stay with us, like they have it. Like, we really like it. But they sent it to us before we did our first ad with them so that we were never like, Magic Spoon's great. I didn't know what we were talking about. So that usually happens. Not always, but usually.
How many boxes did they send? I have to know.
8.
Oh, that's a good number. That's a
The
good
perfect
number.
number. I think it was technically 4 for me, 4 for Caleb. Like, together, you can send us 4 boxes.
Yes.
Um,
Oh, just mix up the flavors, and that's what I would. I love cereal, so I would be all over a Magic Spoon ad in a heartbeat.
yeah, we love Magic Spoon. We truly love it.
That's good. That's good. This is not an ad, by the way. Whoever's
This is
listening
not an
or
ad for
watching this.
Magic Spoon, but if they want to keep re-upping, I will advertise for them forever.
And if they want to start something with me, then I'm willing to take it. Well, thank you, Shelby. I appreciate you for sitting down. This has been a long time in the making. I've missed a couple of emails here and there, and then with and trying to set up with you and Caleb, and then it just became a whole thing. And I was just like, "Give me the girl." Nope, should not have said that. Give me Shelby.
No worries. It was fun.
Yeah.
All right,
All
thank
right.
you for having me.
Of course, anytime. Well, keeping records, you can find it on every podcast app ever.
Anywhere, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever they have, listen to it there. And rate and review on Apple.
That is the most important part of this
Yeah,
whole
rate
podcasting
5 stars, review positively.
thing. Tell Caleb I said hello. He doesn't know who I am. We'll never meet, but I just wanted to say that as well.
I'll let them know.
All right. Thank you again, and have a good rest of your week.
You too. Bye.
Bye.